I belong to a big family. I have 5 brothers and I have 5 sisters. Doon sa seminary, yung mga pare trained us to excel in academics and also to be active in sports. I am now into real estate law and family law as well as wills, estates, and trusts. Sinasabi nila, okay dito, yung red tape, yung mga pag-render ng decision sa korte, mabilis lang. Pag nagkaroon ka ng hearing, matatapos on the same day. Sa Pilipinas, hirap na ako kasi matindi yung traffic. Maganda ang healthcare dito sa Canada. Yung mga anak ko dati, pinaglalaruan ko lang sa basketball na maliliit pa ngayon. Ako nang pinaglalaruan. Given na yun, mahirap sa una. But if you persevere in doing good, and you persevere, you're patient para mapaganda yung buhay mo, then in the end, kahit na overwhelming yung challenges, you will be able to succeed.
Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. With us on our podcast today, Attorney Bobby Santiago. Hi, Attorney Bobby.
Hello. Good morning, Cherry. It's an honor to be invited in this podcast.
So ngayon naman, ikaw naman yung ipapakilala natin sa mga audience natin. We're doing the rounds of some of the Filipinos who live in Canada. We're curious about your life, your experiences, and your expertise also. So pag-uusapan din natin yan mamaya. Pero for now, can you tell us a little bit about yourself just to introduce you to our audience?
I'm a lawyer by profession. By the way, I grew up in the Philippines. I was born in Mandaon, Masbate, a small town. My parents were both teachers. And my mother was the one who influenced me most. She was deeply religious. In fact, she was a member of the Parish Association. She was a member of the Our Lady of Lourdes Association in our parish. And she was very influential in molding me to be a good person and to be also religious, because when I was still in the elementary, she would encourage me to become a member of the altar boys club in our parish. At that time, yung aming parish priest ay very supportive sa mga young ones na gustong maging members ng Altar Boys Club, parang sakristan or acolyte. So at that time, yung mother ko would always bring me to our parish church, and then sabi niya, magsakristan ka siguro para dahil maraming perks ang isang sakristan. So sabi ko, okay, kasi yung iba kong classmates ay member na rin ng Altar Boys Club. So,
anong mga perks ng isang sakristan?
Katulad ng maging kasama mo yung parish priest mo, pumunta sa mga fiesta, siyempre pag sa pistahan, masarap yung mga pagkain. Also, at the time, I was still a child, para sa akin, maganda itong oportunidad na ito para sa akin because I belong to a big family. I have 5 brothers and I have 5 sisters. So
wow, 11.
Yeah.
Number ano ka of the 11?
I am the 6th in line. Yeah.
Middle, right in the middle.
I am the middle. So yung mother ko would assign us household chores. Yung iba taga-luto, yung iba taga-linis. Ako ang isa sa mga taga-linis ng bahay. So every Saturday and Sunday, nasa kumbento ka. Excuse ako.
Nako, yun pala yung perk.
Magandang incentive para sa
bata.
akin.
Oo.
Yeah, and also masaya kami mga sakristan sa parish church namin kasi yung parish priest namin was very active in sports. So tinuturuan niya kami maglaro ng lawn tennis, table tennis at mga indoor games, at we go together in swimming every Sunday and also fishing. So malaking
it seemed like
influence.
you had a good memory and you attach the memories of being close to the church to good memories.
Yes, that's
To
correct.
good
Cherry.
moments and So yun yung parang kinapitan mo and it's still with you until now.
Yeah, and yung parish priest ko pala, bago ko makalimutan, encouraged me also to enter the seminary. And then, ang parents ko, sa amin sa Bicol, because Masbate is still part of Bicol region, sa isang malaking pamilya, parang it's nakaugalian na either May isa doon na pinapapasok sa seminaryo para magpare. And nang sinuggest niya yung idea kung gusto kong mag-enter into the high school seminary, sabi ko, why not? So, sinamahan niya ako mag-take ng exam nung nag-graduate na ako ng elementary. Tapos ko mag-graduate sa grade 6 para mag-take ng entrance exam sa high school seminary. And luckily, I passed. So sabi ng pare sa akin, well, I know na kailangan mo ng financial support kasi malaki kayong pamilya. So sabi niya, I would take care of your allowance. So sabi ko, okay ito. And my parents want me to have a good education. Sa probinsya namin, yung pag-aral sa high school seminary, parang prestigious na eskwelahan yan. So my parents were happy and I would like to please my parents then in my own little way. So nag-aral ako sa seminary, sa madaling salita, and then doon sa seminary, yung mga pare trained us to excel in academics and also to be active in sports kasi yung mga
That's
pare.
a good balance. Ang ganda pala nung eskwelahan ng, at least that seminary school in Masbate. Is it still there?
Yeah,
Would you
it's
know?
still there at medyo marami na silang seminarista ngayon. During our time, sa klase namin, mga ano kami, around 25 to 30. First year, tapos na nag-graduate kami mga around 20. Yung iba.
So that would have been your alternate career if you didn't end up being a lawyer? You think you would have ended up being a priest?
Yeah, I have been telling my wife na kung sakaling mag-retire na ako, siguro I will enter or I will work as a married deacon kasi inaalaw na ngayon. No? Dito sa Toronto, may mga married deacons. And I read sa news na may mga inaalaw na sa Pilipinas na married. I think they are already entertaining the idea na magkaroon ng married deacon.
So you haven't actually closed that chapter of
Not-
you being a seminarian.
Yeah.
Pwedeng yun yung maging bookend. Parang kumbaga,
Either na
after you
maging married
retire.
deacon or a part-time teacher when I retire.
I'd like to go back now to your personal story.
Yes.
Your immigration journey. When did you move to Canada and what were the reasons behind it?
Ganito yan, Cherry. Nung nagpa-practice pa ako sa Pilipinas, I was active in free legal aid sa IBP Quezon City. I was part of the Committee on Free Legal Aid. So, trabaho ko at the time was to give pro bono
Yes.
legal services. Nagbibisita kami sa mga jail para magbigay ng advice sa mga inmates na pending yung mga kaso nila at hindi sila makakalabas. Non-bailable yung mga offenses nila, and then we also appear in court for free para doon sa mga inmates na yon. And then one time, yung IBP Quezon City, yung aming president asked us kung gusto namin mag-attend ng convention dito sa Canada, sa Toronto, for International Law Association members, lawyers. At the time, di pa naman ako member. So sabi ko, okay, kahit medyo mahal, may kamahalan. Kasi you have to be a member ng International Law Association, Philippine chapter at yung kanilang main office sa UK, sa London. So nagpa-member din ako doon para ma-qualify ako na makapag-attend ng almost 2 weeks na convention dito sa Fairmont Hotel. So that was May. Na-approvean yung visa namin, and then nandito na kami sa Pearsons Airport. Paglabas namin, sabi ko, dahil napakainit pag galing namin sa Pilipinas, sabi ko, sarap ng hangin. Pag nilalanghap mo, sabi ko, wag na lang tayo mag-aircon kasi mukhang malinis ang hangin dito. So attractive talaga sa akin nung pagdating pa lang. No? So nung nagkaroon na kami ng convention, dahil nasa downtown lang yung Fairmont Hotel, every now and then during our break, we would go to CN Tower, or yung iba, pumapasyal kung saan-saan doon sa PAT. Sabi ko, maganda ang sistema ng dito, ng kanilang syudad. Sabi ko, siguro ano kaya kung dalhin ko yung pamilya ko dito, kasi parang sabi ko magkaroon ng options. Kasi sa Pilipinas, parang nagsasawa na rin ako dahil parang routinary na lang yung practice ko pag galing sa bahay, punta sa law office, mag-attend ng hearing.
Parang
sa
wala nang
Makati.
challenge, no?
Maraming
Oo.
challenge. So sabi ko, dahil maganda itong lugar na ito, siguro sabi ko pagbalik ko, ano kaya kung mag-apply ako dito. Although nang nandito kami noon, pagkatapos pala ng aming convention, we were invited. Marami kaming mga lawyers na magkakasama. May mga head ng mga legal department ng mga government-controlled and financial institutions sa Pilipinas, mga kasama ko. At that time, yung Consul General dito was a lawyer also. I think it was Attorney Mosquera. Inimbitahan kaming mga nag-attend ng convention. So, nakakilala kami ng mga nagpa-practice na dito. Sinasabi nila, okay dito. Medyo yung red tape, yung mga pag-render ng decision sa korte, mabilis lang. In fact, at the time, pwede na yung mga court hearing by phone or Zoom. So, mabilis. Pag nagkaroon ka ng hearing, sabi nila, matatapos on the same day. Minsan, pag mga motions lang, agad matatanggap mo yung order or decision ng court. Unlike sa Philippines na kung mag-file ka ng motion, it would take you around 90 days para matanggap mo yung order ng judge. Kahit simple motion. Pero dito, right there and then, nandoon na yung photocopier, yung clerk ng judge, yung clerk ng court ay pagkatapos na mag-order ang judge, andyan na, ipo-photocopy niya yung tinype ng stenographer, and then nandyan ang order, matatanggap mo right there and then. So, madali sa parte namin as lawyer na at least pag nanalo ka sa motion mo, nandyan na kaagad. At yung client mo ay talagang satisfied.
So
So sabi ko, okay
that
ito.
sparked your interest.
Oo, sabi ko, okay ito, sabi ko. Kasi at the time, I was already very active also in litigation. Although before, I used to be corporate lawyer at corporate secretary. Nag-diversify ako sa Pilipinas. Sabi ko, mas itong gusto ko. Kung sakaling, kasi sa Pilipinas, medyo hirap na ako kasi matindi yung traffic. Gusto mo mag-attend ng hearing, halimbawa, nandoon ka sa Makati, lipat ka sa Quezon City, punta ka sa Maynila. Minsan nakakatatlo akong hearing nung bago pa lang ako nag-engage sa litigation practice. Nung later on na halos isa na lang ang napupuntahan kong korte kasi ang tindi talaga ng traffic. No? So sabi ko, ito na sabi ko. Kasi dati meron akong sleep disc. Hirap din ako sa pag-drive. Nang nasa seminary pa ako sa UST, Central Seminary, nagkaroon ako ng sleep disc. So, yun ang aking medical condition. At the same time, sabi ko, kung atakihin at ulit ako ng sleep disc, sabi ko, alam ko, at yun ang pinagyayabang nila na maganda ang healthcare dito sa Canada. In fact, I have some friends na yung anak niya nagkaroon ng parang brain tumor. At the time, they were already American citizens. Pero nag-migrate sila dito, sabi niya, kung ginamit ko ang pagiging American citizen ko at inavail ko kung pinagamot ko yung anak ko doon, siguro mahina na ang mga $2 million na gagastusin ko. Pero dito, inoperahan yung anak niya sa brain, wala siyang ginastos. In fact, nakadalawa o tatlo pang operation kasi yung una nagkaroon ng infection pero inulit. And then halos pangatlo, zero, wala siyang binayaran except yung parking fee doon sa hospital na
Correct.
nagdalhan kung saan na-confine yung mga.
So, pagbalik mo ng Pilipinas, you thought about moving na.
So,
You planned it na.
nag-apply na kaagad ako. Siguro mga after 3 months, pagkatapos kong makulate yung mga documents ko like birth certificate, marriage contract, yung mga birth certificate ng mga kapatid ko because you have to establish yung family tree.
Everyone, oo.
Oo.
Eh, 10 yun.
Yeah, I painstakingly
Did that.
work on
Okay.
it. And then, nagsabit ako at the time, sa RCBC Plaza pa yung, ewan ko kung hanggang ngayon, doon pa rin yung Canadian Embassy sa Manila. Doon sa may basement ng RCBC Plaza, doon ko sinasubmit, manual pa noon, no, ang pag-submit. So yung lahat ng mga documents, although by tranches, by installment ang pag-submit ko, pero para lang mag-start na yung process. And then, inano naman nila noon, in-acknowledge receipt nila yung mga documents. So sabi ko, sana maging mabilis. Kasi
How long
matalang-
after that
But
were
it
you
took
able to?
us mga, so 2006, nag-apply, nakatanggap kami ng another letter from the Canadian Embassy, I think from the Citizenship Canada, advising us na kung gusto namin tumuloy pa, then don't respond. Kung ayaw na, then you can respond na. So, hindi na ako sumagot. So, sabi ko, okay, 2010, yung bunso namin was just born. 2008, so sabi ko mga 2 years pa lang, medyo mahirap kung umalis kagad kami. Pero pinapasubmit na sa amin yung mga documents na kailangan kong i-update. So, in-update ko kasi at the time na nag-apply, wala pa yung bunso namin. So, sinubmit ko yung birth certificate niya. And then sa eskwelahan, nangangailangan sila at that time ng ano pa medyo hindi pa sila stricto gaano under the old law, immigration law. Hindi pa sila stricto tungkol sa pag-submit ng mga requirements like yung sa language requirements. You can use, although at that time parang may IELTS na pero mababa lang ang requirement nila. Although I still managed to submit yung mga certification galing sa mga pinagturuan kong eskwelahan at university na ang medium of instruction ay English at doon sa mga eskwelahan na natapusan ko pag-aral ng law at pag-aral ng theology, pag-aral ng philosophy at pag-aral ng master's philosophy. English ang ginagamit pero parang nag-IELTS pa ako. Nag-IELTS pa ako noon pero mababa lang yung requirement. No? May certain points, yung points tungkol sa kung may relative ka dito, yung may mga pamangkin ako na nauna na dito sa Canada, yung aking
So
sister-in-law.
2006,
2006, I was already,
nung,
yeah.
nung pinasa mo yung mga dokumento
Yes,
mo.
oo.
And then when did you
Nung 2000,
finally go here?
kasi nga we were hesitant na pumunta kagad dito. Kasi may hirapan kami.
Kailan
And
ba sila naglabas na parang, pwede na kayo pumunta?
that was, I think, on 2000, in 2012 already. In
6
2011,
years?
pinamedical na kami.
Okay.
2011. Pero nag-submit kami ng medical result ko, nakita nila na mayroon daw spot parang doon
Sa lungs.
Sa lungs ko.
Maraming mga
common yata yan,
Filipinos na
very
gano'n.
common yan,
Oo. Okay. So when did you arrive in Canada?
We arrived in Canada in July 11, 2012.
2012.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was 6 years after
Yes.
you put in your application.
Yeah.
And how old was your youngest then?
The youngest was then 3 years old. 3 years old.
How was the journey from then, 2012, until 2025?
Well,
Mahaba-haba yun. Pero like, I guess if you can briefly let us know
it was
the
very challenging
struggles
to us kasi
and the
sanay kami sa
wins
Pilipinas.
also.
Yeah. Sanay kami sa Pilipinas na yung mga bata may mga yaya. So, nang dumating dito, malaking challenges sa party namin. We cannot just work. Although yung misis ko, siya yung nagtrabaho muna sa party ko, talagang ang inatupag ko ay para mag-upgrade. Kasi sayang naman kung maubos lang kaagad yung aming binaon dito. I don't think we have I think our resources were just limited. Although from time to time, yung law firm namin nagpapadala pa sa akin ng
Mga kaso.
nagpapadala sa akin ng kita. Kasi we were 3, so yung share ko pinapadala. Pero yung
okay.
aming kliyente medyo kumukunti na lang kasi sa Pilipinas gusto
Nabawasan
nila.
yun sa'yo. Oo.
Yeah, yung personal lang gusto nila. Kailangan nakikita ka nila, nakakausap ka here and now. And then, sa party na, okay, sa akin naman at the time, nasa bahay lang ako samantalang nagre-review ako. Kasi as I've said, I took the option of writing the challenge examination. So, luckily, I was able to obtain my license less than 2 years. No? Dito pala, pag halimbawa gusto mong mag-aral dito o gusto mong maging lawyer, kailangan you have to pass through the National Committee on Accreditation. This is an accreditation body of the government na para doon sa mga internationally trained lawyers na gustong mag-practice dito sa Canada, kailangan they have to obtain a certificate of accreditation. Parang yung certificate na yan, pag in-issue sa'yo, parang that is equivalent to obtaining legal education dito. So kahit na graduate ka na doon ng law, kahit na lawyer ka na sa atin, kahit marami kang nang natapusan, you still have to obtain that certificate for you to be qualified for the licensing. Iba pa yung licensing. You have to take the barrister and the solicitor examinations. So gladly, I was able to finish everything, the accreditation process and the licensing process in less than 2 years. So in 2014 September, I took my oath as a lawyer. And before that, I was, however, already having my articling, yung OJT, on the job training. Kailangan yun sa mga gustong mag-aral dito o gustong mag-practice dito para at least alam mo yung may kakaroon ka ng Canadian experience kasi ibang batas sa Pilipinas sa batas dito.
What do you love about living in Canada?
Well, dito sa Canada, I still consider it as laid back ang buhay dito. At the time na dumating kami dito, another thing is yung healthcare, no? Maraming libre, pati dental care, the time was free. And then sabi ko nga kanina, talagang maganda na may free healthcare kasi sa Pilipinas kahit na laki ang naipon mo bago ka mag-retire, mauubos yun kung dinapuan ka ng matinding sakit. Dito, well, wala kang babayaran. So, another thing, maganda itong Canada kasi yung mga tao dito are very much courteous. Talagang sabihin natin, they really are very much welcoming sa mga immigrant kasi this is an immigrant country na talagang they acknowledge yung diversity ng mga taong nagmamigrate dito. So they respect your distinct culture and your orientation. Kaya parang maganda ito para sa mga usually mga gustong pumunta dito who would like to have an option.
Ano tingin mo ang mindset dapat ng isang mag-i-immigrate sa Canada?
You have to accept the fact na there would be challenges along the way na, well, in the beginning talagang you have to adjust to the culture. You have to adjust to your new job kung natanggap ka na sa trabaho. You have to have a good relationship with your spouse. Natural na yun. Sometimes you have arguments, you have misunderstanding, but at the end of the day, make sure na you're able to reconcile and you have to be supportive of your kids kasi yung mga bata dito, they still need us. So, kailangan wag pabayaan yung mga bata. Kung anong nakagawian natin sa Pilipinas na kailangan yung mga magaganda nating values, kailangan ma-impart pa rin natin sa kanila bilang Pinoy para they would turn out to be good citizens of this country and also that they could become self-sufficient in the future. Kailangan din nilang maging independent. So we have to be supportive with each other. So yung mga, although nandyan na yan na talagang mahirap. First 3 to 5 years is really very challenging. Dito ko na yata na naranasan yung pinakamahirap na parte ng buhay ko. Kasi talagang matinding transition ang nangyari. But then, with prayers and perseverance to overcome yung challenges, well, like a rock in the sea, never beaten by the tempest, pwedeng mangyari sa atin yun if we are able to overcome these challenges. So,
Was it worth it?
I think it's worth it.
What made it worth it? What makes it worth it?
Well, because maraming mga magagandang nangyari sa buhay namin. Unang-una, yung mga bata naging independent. No? Kung nasa Pilipinas ay hindi mo sila mapaluto kapag sila naiiwan sa bahay kasi nandoon lang yung kasambahay na pwede magluto sa kanila. Dito, they do it themselves. Hindi mo na sila kailangan i-remind pa. Kung halimbawa inaabot kami ng 10:00 sa opisina kasi pag halimbawa summer or spring, busy ang real estate. So, minsan umuwi kami minsan 10:00 o 11:00 na. So, nakakain na rin sila bago pa kami dumating. And also, yung education dito, free, no? High school, elementary, so walang problema. So, sa Pilipinas, elementary pa lang o kindergarten pa lang, ang laki
Magkano
na
na bayad mo,
malaki
no?
ng
Ang
binabayad,
tuition
malaki
fee.
ng gagastusin.
Correct.
Dito, free. And then, very supportive yung mga teachers dito. Very supportive sa mga bata. So, talagang nandito na yung maraming opportunity na talagang kung diligent lang sila, hindi sila magluko, ay talagang matutupad yung mga pangarap nila. And para sa atin, we will be able to do yung mga bagay-bagay na gusto nating gawin when we retire. Kasi siyempre, hindi na dependent masyado yung mga In other words, at a young age talagang dinidevelop, ini-inculcate na sa isip ng mga bata, lalo-lalo na on the part of those in the academe na sila ay maging self-sufficient, maging independent.
Maganda yung point mo na yun na for us then, it's good for them and it's also good for the parents because you'll be able to retire the way you want to retire. Kasi maraming mga magulang in the Philippines na matanda na sila, sakit ng ulo pa rin yung mga anak nila na dapat self-sufficient na pero hindi nabigyan ng pakpak, halimbawa, to
Yes.
fly. Diba? Now you're the gift of giving them that wings to be able to spread it and
Yeah.
live your own fulfilling, happy, successful life.
Yeah, because that is actually
that
the
is
essence of
invaluable.
it's the essence of support from parents to make our children self-sufficient.
Oo.
They cannot
Oo.
just
Yun naman ang
rely
trabaho
upon us
natin
forever. Yeah.
Correct. What's the specialization of your law practice?
I am now into real estate law and family law as well as wills, estates, and trusts.
Okay. So marami tayong pwedeng pag-usapan doon. Unang-una, yung real estate market ngayon in Toronto, sabi nila bumaba na daw ng konti ang presyo ng real estate. Do you think it's a good time to buy or still hold off?
Yes, Jerry. Actually now is a buyer's market. No? Before, parang pabor na pabor yung market sa sellers, especially during the pandemic. After the pandemic, nang nagkaroon ng real estate downtrend, ang presyo ng real estate bumaba. What used to be like 1 million in 2021, 2022, parang naging 800,000 or 900,000 na lang ngayon. Outside Toronto, medyo bumaba pa. Like in Niagara region, Barrie, talagang bumaba. So kung may extra money ka and you are approved for the mortgage, then it would be better to buy a real estate. That's a good
Buyer's
also investment
market
of
ngayon.
buyer's market, yes.
But also one of the main things that are happening right now are the fear around the tariffs or the concerns around the tariffs. Do you think may epekto ito or should people be concerned about that in relation to buying a property? Will it have any effects, the raw materials? Or maybe that's even the other way around. Maybe it's a good time to buy now because later on, now that the tariffs are in place or will be put in place pa with the additional ones that they might announce, no, the US might announce soon, the prices might go up then. But then now, the prices are still reflecting the pre-tariff rates.
Yes, I think it's still a good time to buy while the tariff is not yet fully felt. No? Pag nagkaroon ng full-blown tariff, I know, syempre, yung buying power or capacity ng mga home buyers would be affected kasi naturally maapektuhan ang presyo ng mga prime commodities. So magkakaroon ng domino effect na yan. Pero knowing Canada na economically stable itong Canada, no? Maganda yung financial policies ng gobyerno. I think the government will be very much willing to support the citizens, yung mga nakatira dito, especially the home buyers. In fact, it would also result to the cutting more of prime rates, yung interest rate ng Bank of Canada. As I read in the news, kung magkaroon ng full-blown tariffs, sabi nila, pwedeng ibaba pa ng mas malaki.
So yung tinaas nila, how many times the last few months? 7 times, I think, no? And then now, pwede nilang ibaba ulit.
Yeah, pwedeng lumaki pa. Baka umabot ng mga 50.
Kumbaga yung dating rates, way back, ganun yung mga rates, hindi ba?
Yeah. Nung pandemic, mababa. Pero after the pandemic, tumaas.
Doon na
I think
nag-continue
it reached as much
magtaas.
as 7.25. Pero tuloy-tuloy na bumaba. Pero ang sabi ng mga expert, yung mga financial advisors, yung mga mortgage experts, sabi nila, pag nagkaroon ng full-blown tariffs, siyempre yung gobyerno will find a way na ma-caution yung effect, yung adverse effect sa mga home buyers.
So
Raw
that's what...
materials, well, yung lupa, I think right now it's the auto industry which suffers or which will, which is very much threatened. Although sabi nila April 2, so I just don't know kung our government will be able to deal with it in such a manner na baka hindi naman ituloy or baka
how they could
mababaan.
cushion it, no? For first-time home buyers in Ontario, what are the key legal things that they need to know before buying a home?
Before buying a home, before you sign the dotted line, bago ka nagperma o pumirma sa offer, of course, you have to have an agent to represent you in the negotiation, in the bargaining, as to the purchase price, as to the terms of the agreement of purchase and sale. Importante na huwag kalimutan na yung tatlong conditions, lalong-lalo na pag ang binibili ng home buyer is a house or a detached property or semi-detached, importante na mayroong financing condition kaya na hindi matutuloy yung kontrata kung halimbawa within 5 business days hindi ka na-approvean sa financing. You can always go back para maklaim mo pa yung deposit mo para makancel yung kontrata.
Kailangan
Mutual
kasama
release.
yun. Okay.
Pangalawa, you should have an inspection kasi lalong-lalo na kung ang binibili mo ay medyo matagal na bahay, no? Used property and matagal na siyang na-build. Importante na may licensed inspector to inspect yung integrity ng property kasi after closing, hindi mo na mahahabol kung na-waive mo yung inspection. So, pag na-fulfill yung condition ng inspection, na-fulfill na yung financing, and then yun lang dalawa na yun ang conditions mo, then the contract becomes already firm. In other words, kung i-break mo yung contract, hindi ka nag-close. In other words, you can be declared in default, you will be liable for damages. Yung deposit mo will be forfeited. Not only that, kung may further damage or losses, yung seller, kasi they are forced to bring back in the market yung property because you failed to close. Whatever further losses or damages that they incur, they will
Sagot mo
pass it
yun.
on to you. They can sue you and most probably they would succeed in their suit against you. Kung mayroon kang property, mayroon kang trabaho, then yung property na yon can be run after by them to satisfy whatever judgment the court will render in connection with their breach of contract case plus damages.
Okay.
So, importante sa detached or semi-detached or house na binibili, yung dalawang conditions. Yung iba gusto pa nila, pag halimbawa marami silang terms na gustong ipalagay sa kontrata na kailangan magiging firm lang kung na-review ng lawyer. Pero usually yung mga real estate agent, I assume na alam naman nila on how to give basic advice sa mga basic terms na kailangan nandyan sa agreement of purchase and sale. Now, with respect to the purchase of a condo unit, itong tatlong conditions na ito ang dapat nakalagay sa kontrata. Financing, inspection, status certificate. Yung status certificate, well, it basically embodies yung financial condition ng condo corporation kasi the one that manages the finances of the condo corporation, yung board, will have to determine or must make sure na mayroong sufficient fund. We call it a reserve fund. Itong reserve fund na ito sa status certificate na minimension, ito yung fund na sineset aside o naka-earmark na galing ito sa common expenses, sa maintenance fee na binabayad monthly ng mga unit owners. Diyan lang gagaling yung gagastusin nila sa mga major repairs o replacement cost, like kung halimbawa nasira yung elevator, yung roofing, yung exterior walls, saka mga common amenities, doon ang gagaling sa reserve fund. So importante na yung reserve fund must be adequate. Kasi kung hindi, halimbawa depleted o negative yung reserve fund, most probably yung mga unit owners will have to
fund
spend
it
for special assessment on top of the maintenance fee. So, minsan, may mga bangko rin na pag nakita nila na yung status certificate ay hindi maganda, ika-cancel nila yung mortgage. And then, ang problem minsan, wini-waive na minsan ng mga ahente in order, lalong-lalo na kung it is a seller's market, minsan sigurado sila, akala nila, tuloy-tuloy yung approval ng bangko. Until such time na yung bangko stricto o yung financial institutions stricto, ay hindi sila
So
pumapayag.
yung iba, hindi nila nasasama itong third condition which is called the
Status review, the status
review.
certificate.
And ito para sa condominium lang to.
Para lang sa condo.
And that's very essential for someone who's gonna buy a condo to include that in the contract.
Yes.
That is their protection na, yung sinasabi mo kanina, the condo has adequate funds,
Yes.
na kaya nilang punuan kung may mga mangyari.
Na healthy yung financial
Na healthy
condition.
yung financial situation ng condo. Kasi I'm sure maraming nakaka-experience nung ganyan. Yung nakatira ka na doon, okay na, you bought it na after maybe just a year, maybe even just a few months or a few years. Magkakaroon ng problema yung condo, yung association, tapos wala palang pondo.
That's correct, Cherry. Kasi in fact, may mga na-review akong status certificate na initially maganda yung status certificate. Later on, nagkaroon ng mga kaso yung condo, cases from within, yung mga minsan di maiwasan yung may mga nagko-complain ng mga unit owners o minsan may mga contractors na hindi na nababayaran dahil yung budget ay na-mismanage ng mga
Association.
condo directors or ng property management. Minsan may mga suit laban mismo sa condo directors or sa condo corporation kasi kung halimbawa may mga, kung dati pa sila, halimbawa, minsan politika rin eh. So, nagpapa-appoint sila sa korte ng inspector o parang receiver. Pag ang condo corporation may receiver, parang warning na yun sa amin na, we have to be careful in buying this condo unit kasi marami ng expenses yan. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng matalo sa mga kaso, kung saan kinasuhan. Minsan kasi may mga hindi mo talaga maiwasan. Although, importante rin na mayroong building insurance yung condo kasi dito madalas yung mga common na yung slip and fall na halimbawa may dumaan lang dyan sa harap ng condo building, hindi nalinis o na-remove yung snow. Okay, pwedeng kasuhan yung condo corporation for slip and fall. Pero kung in place naman yung insurance, then ini-endorse nila sa insurance company yun ang mananagot
So
sa mga
ito,
kaso.
ito na yung binubusisi ng mga abogado.
That's correct.
Pero
That's correct.
pwede ka bang mag-close, bumili ng property o magbenta ng property nang walang kasamang abogado? Or there's always a lawyer involved?
Yeah.
And at what stage? If
There's
there
always
is?
a lawyer involved kasi dito ang bayaran lawyer to lawyer. So yung payment sa balance ng purchase price, you call that balance due on closing, should go through the trust account of the seller's lawyer. So galing sa, halimbawa ako, nag-represent ako ng buyer, okay, the funds coming from the buyer either galing sa kanya directly because he would be paying the purchase price or the balance due on closing from his own money, he will be paying it cash. Kailangan pa rin niyang ibigay sa akin kasama yung mga legal expenses, legal fees and disbursements. Which include yung land transfer tax kasi ang mga real estate lawyer ay para silang extension ng land registry. Sila yung nagre-register ng title. We are the ones doing it electronically. And the other lawyer, yung seller's lawyer, ay before they would release electronically the transfer for us to register if we act for the buyer, kailangan natanggap muna nila yung balanse, yung bayad, no? So talagang parang built-in mechanism yan ng gobyerno at the same time para rin mabayaran yung land transfer tax at iba pang mga applicable taxes like HST kung brand new home. So
Sabagay dito sa Canada talagang nakaano na nga, like what you said, there's a system
yes,
in place that you
Yeah.
always have to follow every time there's a transaction.
Yeah.
And those are all, do you think it's an overkill o tama lang naman talaga yung sistema and it protects everyone involved? Or tingin mo merong pa ring loophole kahit na gaano ka busisi yung kanilang proseso?
para sa akin maganda yung sistema at tama lang kasi it's actually a protection to the parties, the buyers and sellers. Although maraming documents na pinipirmahan sa abogado, yung mga pre-closing documents, once na nag-close, talagang bayad yung seller, yung titulo, readily available. So, yung headache na usually or stress na we encounter sa sale at purchase transaction, naiiwasan yun, no? Dahil safe yung transaction at mabilis.
Yun lang, no? So
Yeah.
medyo minsan parang ang busisi, lalo mo maninibago tayo dahil ang sistema sa Pilipinas, hindi ganito kabusisi, di ba?
Yeah.
Na, meron pang ibang representative or agent, yung buyer, iba pa yung representative ng seller. Minsan nga sa atin, pwedeng walang ahente, pwede kayo
Yeah,
transaction
kasi,
na kayo-kayo lang, no? So yun yung mga things na maninibago tayo dito kung lumipat tayo ng Canada, yung ganun. And the home is something that all of us dream of.
Yeah.
So at one point, you're gonna buy your own house, you're gonna need a lawyer, and the systems might be a bit tedious. That's why may guidance din naman ng mga experts. And that's why we also want to guest here yung mga Filipinos na who are experts in their fields, like you, for example. Kasi iba rin yung Filipino to Filipino yung kausap mo. Hindi ba? Na
Yes.
nakaka-relate. Tas alam yung culturally kung saan tayo nanggagaling. Apart
Yes.
from the language, it's really more societal, cultural.
Yeah,
no?
in fact,
Na-
marami kaming mga kliyente na mga Pilipino because they feel more comfortable na ang lawyer nila Filipino because we are patient, very patient to explain to them the process. So, they are free, parang dahil familiar sila sa language, and we speak Tagalog sa aming mga Filipino client. So parang komportable sila na ayos yung transaction, maging smooth, and that at the end of the day, they will be able to get their key.
Right. Right.
lockbox code na ngayon kasi nakalagay na sa lockbox yung mga keys after the pandemic, ganun na, or during the pandemic, lockbox code na lang ang pinapadala for them to have access once na nag-close na yung transaction. Usually, ang closing ng transaction is mga before 6 o'clock. Pero pag ang funding ay readily available, minsan nakakapag-close kami alas 12 pa lang. So before 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock kasi nagsasara na yung land registry, you can no longer register the title. Pero pwede kayong magkaroon ng escrow closing.
How long
before
is the
6
whole process from the time, I don't know, saan ba tayo magsisimula? From the time I put an offer
Yeah.
sa house hanggang sa closing?
It would really depend.
Assuming that the financing is
Yeah, it's-
pretty smooth.
usually, I think mga 1 month is a comfortable period.
1 month lang? Tapos na lahat yun? Pwedeng matapos
because,
yun?
yung sa financing, yung appraiser, yung bangko bago sila mag-approve, finally, kung talagang ipa-fund ka, kailangan ma-determine nila yung appraised value ng property. So they have accredited appraisers. Itong mga accredited appraisers na ito have to determine the market value of the property para yung bangko malaman din niya kung halimbawa yung kliyente approve for 95 or 90 or 80% ng value, hindi yung purchase price, kasi sometimes yung purchase price may not be the same as the appraised value. So pag halimbawa mas mababa yung appraised value, like 1 million yung purchase price, pero yung appraised value 900,000, yun ang pagbabasihan ng bangko for purposes of providing you like 95, 90 or
Sa appraised
80%.
value nila binibase,
Yes,
hindi sa,
yes.
sa ang tawag doon sa isa purchase price.
Yeah. So importante na matapos muna yung appraisal. Kaya nga sabi
Para
ko kanina,
malaman mo kung magkano yung financing.
kaya nga sabi ko kanina, minsan nahihirapan yung kliyente kung halimbawa mataas masyado yung pakabili niya sa property and he is only approved for so much less. Like 1 million lang bili niya, but then ang appraisal ay mga 900,000. So kung 95% or 90 or 80%, yung kanyang magiging down payment lalaki.
Oo.
So kung
Kasi sagot na niya yung difference
sasagot niya yung difference.
Diba? Yung mga tips or yung mga nuggets of thoughts that you think those who want to get into it, either as a buyer or a seller, should know about or should keep in mind?
Sa mga prospective home buyers, you should really get your agent of your trust, no? And also a lawyer of your trust. Kasi yung mga lawyers like us are gatekeepers of the bank. We also represent the bank. So we make sure na all the requirements, all the documents that need to be submitted to the bank are submitted to them on time for them to be able to advance the mortgage amount on the closing date. So as I said, kailangan nilang pumili ng talagang mapagkatiwalaan nilang ahente, someone who is competent to handle their transaction, na siyang magpoprotekta ng kanilang interest. Kasi dito iba ang ahente ng seller, you call that listing agent. Yung sa buyer, you call that cooperating agent. So each of them, parang built-in mechanism yan ng batas dito sa real estate na they should respect, they should protect the respective interests of their clients. Kasi kung may conflict of interest, o magkakilala na halimbawa yung seller's agent sa buyer's agent, pinagbigyan yung seller's agent ng buyer's agent, that would be at the expense. Hindi maganda sa party ng buyer. So, make sure na kilala ninyo yung agent ninyo. Because we really cannot determine kung, halimbawa, nag-offer ka ng ganitong presyo. Tapos, it does not mean na porke mataas yung in-offer mo, ikaw na yung pipiliin ng seller, through the seller's agent. Pwedeng pipiliin nila yung ibang tao na nag-offer na sa tingin nila, okay, mas mababa nga yung ino-offer na purchase price, pero itong mga terms na ito, like we name yung financing, we name yung status certificate, we name yung inspection, so parang sigurado na sila na may buyer. Pero yun pala, may tinatago doon sa property. Pwedeng yung integrity ng property, may structural defect. So the moment na we name yun from the very outset, kasi pwedeng pwedeng i-waive yan from the very outset itong mga
Yes.
conditions
Oo.
para lang masiguro ng seller
Ng
na may bibili na ng property niya. Kahit na sa tingin natin ay dapat hindi naman talaga ganun ang presyo. So, and who would know kung talagang may nangyaring bidding? I think that's one thing na medyo may loophole sa system, sa bidding. Kasi in fact, there was a suggestion before na kung pwede daw i-disclose yung mga multiple biddings, kung pwede malaman ng buyer, ng consumer. Pero I think there was no action on that regard kasi nga naglalabi rin itong mga
Yan yung time when the market was
brokers.
very hot. Naabutan ko yata yan a few years ago. I mean, I'm sure it happened a couple of times, but a few years ago, sometime 2022, yung masyadong hot yung market na
That's correct.
isang araw lang, kahit na wala ng inspection, close na nila agad kasi
Yeah.
pumapayag na rin yung buyer
Yeah.
dahil mawawala sa kanya eh. So sige,
Yeah.
papasok siya blindly na hindi niya pa
That's
alam
correct.
kung may structural defect ba to, pero willing na siya magbayad kasi ang bilis mawala, no? Ng
And
mga
then,
property.
nalalaman na lang namin, after closing, may mga post-closing issues.
Saka
Oo,
nagkaka-issues.
tapos kami ang tatawagan.
Kayo
And then
masakit
we
ang
would
ulo.
explain to them na winave na ninyo lahat-lahat yan. But before the waiver, you should, or their agent should have explained to them yung consequences ng waiver ng mga conditions na yon. So, importante na ma-explain sa kanila na pag winave nila, ito yung mga consequences. But,
Ito yung mga hindi natin pwedeng i-shortcut eh, 'di ba? Kasi
Yes.
doon din sasakit yung ulo natin sa
Yeah.
dulo. So dapat 'yan kung papasukin natin, we find people we trust and hopefully nakakatulong yung mga programa namin
Yeah.
dito sa Filipino TV para makilala nyo yung mga taong pwede nyong i-trust. Like dito, we have an immigration lawyer, we have a real estate lawyer. Yun yung mga dahilan minsan bakit kami nag-guest ng mga experts na kagaya ni Attorney Bobby. We're not endorsing Attorney Bobby to be your real estate lawyer. If you want to, nakilala nyo siya dito, but you have those insights, 'di ba? Na kailangan intindihin nyo kasi minsan ang sarap ipaubaya dun sa expert eh. Na kung tayo kami, halimbawa, hindi kami eksperto, tapos lalapit ako sa iyo, Attorney Bobby, gusto ko na lang sabihin, ikaw na bahala, attorney, basta. Ayusin mo na yan, pero pag magka-problema, sa iyo din naman ako pupunta. But we also have to understand it ourselves. Kasi ultimately, it's gonna be your headache, your money, your time, your effort that's going to be put into it also pag nagkaroon ng problema.
At isa pa, kailangan iwasan yung pagiging emotional buyer. Kasi pag halimbawa, dinala ka na ng ahente maraming beses para i-view yung property, minsan gustong-gusto mo na yung property. So apparently, parang napakaganda nito, newly renovated. Yun pala, previously, ginamit siya as marijuana grow-up, yung sa basement niya. And then nagkaroon ng work order. Pag halimbawa, nag-close and then later on it is discovered na mayroon siyang work order kasi hindi na remediate yung paggamit sa kanya as a marijuana grow-up. Medyo delikado
Anong
ka.
problema doon, attorney? If it was used as a marijuana growing...
Well, pag kinonvert mo yan sa pagiging parang magiging property na for sale, pag nilisting yan, ang general rule is make sure na wala siyang work order kasi pwedeng, pag nalaman ng bangko, pwedeng i-cancel yung approval ng
Ano ang work
mortgage mo.
order?
Yung work order
means-
is parang nalaman ng City Hall, ng City of Toronto, halimbawa, na ginamit siya as marijuana grow-up, kailangan mag-pass through a clearance na na-remediate na. Kasi yung amoy ng marijuana, minsan mahirap yan matanggal sa basement. Halimbawa, usually sa basement yan. So, maraming mga clearances.
I noticed, no? That's such a big deal here, no? If it was used
Yes.
as a marijuana. Even when you're renting, lagi nakalagay dun sa kontrata na dapat hindi mag-marijuana in the premise.
Kaya kung may
no?
duda, halimbawa, yung ahente o yung buyer, na, kasi usually dapat i-disclose yan ng seller's agent, ng listing agent. Kasi it is material
Oo.
information na kailangan i-disclose mo kung dati siyang ginamit as marijuana grow-up kasi yung mortgage, hindi mo mapapa-approvean ang mortgage yan. Ayaw ng bangko kasi nga kung wala mga sufficient remediation, kahit na nga may remediation, sometimes
Hindi na
nag-aalangan
nila,
pa rin
oo.
yung
And pwedeng malaman lang yan pagdating na sa mag-apply ka na ng mortgage.
Hindi naman.
Pwedeng
Kung
ang
malalaman
bangko ang
kung
makakaalam.
sinabi nila, kasi pag residential ang binibiling property, usually may title insurance. Hindi naman nire-require ng title insurance company na kumuha ng property information report o tinatawag nilang building na kailangan mag-submit ka ng building compliance or zoning compliance. Unlike kung ang transaction mo is a purchase of a commercial real estate, talagang required yan para covered sa title. Covered ka sa title insurance. Pero ang problema, kung later on, nandoon ka na sa bahay na yon at yung amoy ay malalanghap mo pa rin. So you would be the one to suffer.
Suffering, oo.
Kung worse, kung malaman pa, mayroong outstanding work order galing sa City Hall, may fine yan na dapat not fit for occupation yan. Kasi minsan, pwedeng itago yan eh. So kung may mga professionals na hindi nila alam yan, medyo delikado sa parte ng buyer. So if you suspect na mayroong na ginamit siya previously as a marijuana grow-up, you can request your real estate lawyer to make building and zoning compliance search para kung makita na mayroong work order, then you still have that. Or you can even make that as a condition. You can tell your real estate agent na pwede ba gawin natin conditional kasi may duda ako dito o may nakapagsabi sa akin na ginamit siya. Kahit na kung dati siyang nasunog na property, it would be best na building compliance search mo muna sa lawyer kung nagdududa
Hindi
ka.
ito voluntarily dinidisclose nung agent ng
Usually
seller.
it is
Halimbawa may namatay doon sa bahay. Or na
ayun,
dati nang nasunog.
kasi stigma yung
These
may
are-
dating namatay, murder halimbawa o
Oo.
rape sa bahay na yun.
Are those disclosed?
Yeah, they are supposed to be disclosed by the listing agent, no? Para magkaroon ng informed
Supposed to
consent
be, so
before.
not all
Supposed
the
to be.
time.
Yeah, pero sometimes kung halimbawa hindi rin dinisclose ng owner na ganun ang nangyari, hindi rin masasabi.
Pero pwede mong hingiin. Pwedeng
mong-
as a buyer,
yeah.
pwede kung, can you check
Yeah.
if those, there's anything that
yeah.
happened in the house
Yes, yes.
that I should know about? It
Yeah,
doesn't
kasi
mean I won't buy it. I
yeah.
might still buy it, but
Yeah, kasi in fact, yung ibang mga buyer's agent would put it in the contract na walang murder na nangyari sa property. na
depende na sa
dati hindi siya
ano
nasunog.
na sa kontrata.
So, kung may warranty to that effect, then you're good. Okay lang. No? Kasi
So-
you can run after them after the closing.
Okay, if there was a 25-year-old now in front of you asking for your advice, what would you give him? What would you tell him?
Well, you just have to make sure that you work hard on what you dream for. Pag nandito ka sa Canada, you have to accept the fact na you really have to work hard and you have to be patient. You must not be discouraged sa mga challenges that come along your way. For you to shape your good future, you must have also faith in God. You must not abandon your daily prayers, or you must also have that spirit to succeed. Hindi mo dapat pabayaan yung mga mahal mo rin sa buhay, lalong-lalo na kung nandun sila sa Pilipinas. Well, sometimes, although we have to focus more on the future, importante rin na from time to time, your feet must be grounded, no? And never be discouraged kasi talagang you will encounter challenges sa trabaho, sa relationship mo sa asawa mo o sa mga tao na kasama mo sa trabaho. So just persevere in what good you do, you will succeed.
What do you do on your downtime?
Kasama ko yung misis ko sa opisina. So, most of the time, we are 24/7 magkasama. Pag halimbawa wala ganong trabaho sa opisina, we go on a date, no? Lalo na after,
A nice dinner,
and, we have a nice dinner, or sometimes our kids would join us to watch beautiful movies. Usually off for action movies. And sometimes during weekend, we would go to Muskoka. Nag-hiking kami doon. We take a walk malapit sa lake, and after that, we play basketball. Yung mga anak ko dati, pinaglalaruan ko lang sa basketball na maliliit pa, ngayon ako nang pinaglalaruan. Bali 2x2 kami. Yung panganay, kasama niya yung bunso. And then, ang kasama ko naman sa paglaro, yung babae, yung pangalawa. Okay, because he also plays basketball. And then, ang cheerer namin, yung wife ko.
Hindi kasama sa basketball yung wife mo. Oh, okay. What is something about you that maybe not even your closest friends know about you?
Hindi nila alam na akala nila sa akin ay masyadong seryoso. No? Hindi nila alam na minsan-minsan nagpapatawa ako sa mga, lalong-lalo na sa mga kliyente ko. And then sa mga anak ko, they find me funny kasi minsan sinasabayan ko rin yung mga kalukuhan nila. So that's one thing kasi I'm a private person, I am a homebody. So yan ang hindi na nila alam. They thought that I'm straight, na masyadong seryoso dahil sa trabaho ko bilang lawyer, but then siguro sabi ko sa sarili ko na itong trabahong ito ay masyado ng seryoso. Huwag na natin masyado pang seryosohin na to the point na hindi mo nababalansihin. It's still good na we enjoy, we have to relax, and we have to be funny para makalimutan yung mga, sometimes yung mga stress sa trabaho.
Before we wrap up, anything else that you'd like to impart to our audience?
Sa mga yung mga gustong maging abogado, who are in their early stage ng practice, ang masasabi ko, when you accept client, especially when you are into litigation, make sure that you do not promise the moon and the stars. In other words, you have to manage the client's expectation, and you have to be serious in your career professional development seminars. You have to take attending them seriously, and because you cannot give what you do not have, you must be competent. Kasi dito ang law society is strict. Make sure na alam mo ang practice mo, and it's just advisable also na kailangan magkaroon talaga ng articling position, magkaroon ka ng OJT, magkaroon ng on-the-job training bago ka mag-practice. Kasi dito, option minsan na binibigyan ng privilege na magpa-exempt. Don't take that path kasi you cannot give what you do not have. Importante na alam mo kung ano ang pinapractice mo, because the law society here is strict, and if you are not competent, then you have no right to practice. And then sa mga newcomers, well, talagang given na yun na mahirap sa una. But if you persevere in doing good, and you persevere, you have your patient in your intention, in your effort para mapaganda yung buhay mo, then in the end, kahit na overwhelming yung challenges, you will be able to succeed. And once you succeed, like a rock in the sea, sabi ko nga, never beaten by the tempest, ay talagang yan ang pwedeng mangyari o magiging kakalabasan mo.
On that note, Attorney Bobby, we thank you very much for guesting. And thank you for sharing with us your thoughts, your insights, your backstory, and some generous tips about your expertise.
Thank you very much too, Cherry. It's an honor to be invited in your podcast.
And on
Thank
that
you very
note, we will leave you first for this week. We will see you again on our next episode.